Before we speak about Aadam's performance, I've just got to give me a quick opinion on, you'll have seen the interview I did with Naseem early in the week. Did it remind you of back in the day? He hasn't lost his charisma, as he's still the same personality and can still liven up the camera when the mic's on him.
Yeah, it's funny watching Naz. He's never short of a few words, especially when he talks about his left ball bag or whatever he was saying. And he's still the same. Even though Aadam's the fighter, Naz is doing all the talking, and they're just stood in the background. He always had that level of showmanship, and I think that's why people loved him. He just probably doesn't move as fast these days as he did then. But good interview, and you should be privileged really, because I don't think he's done many interviews over the years, and I think I've only seen one interview with him in you. I ain't seen him being on anybody else's channel. But yeah, so it was good to see Naz doing his stuff and talking it up, but we need Aadam to be saying what he's got to say. And
a few people said that, but I've got to say, because ultimately it was me asking the questions, and I directed a lot of the questions to Naz, and that was mainly because what you just said there. I know he doesn't do many interviews, so I thought I might not get this opportunity again, so I've got to ask him as much as I can, and it turned out to be a brilliant interview. And obviously Aadam, don't forget, I spoke to him literally 2 days before extensively, so there wasn't much more I could get out of him, so I thought I'm going to let his dad.
What I will say is, if you go back to the interviews back in the day when Naz was first coming through and didn't really speak a lot, interviewers did the same thing. They directed the questions towards my dad. And then, Naz was quite happy to sit back, and then he found his form. And when they started directing the questions towards my dad, Naz would jump in and start spouting off. So that's what we're expecting at some point from Aadam, to find his confidence. And, when you do start asking Naz the questions, that Aadam actually interrupts and says what he's got to say.
Definitely so. So the first thing we'll speak about is the occasion, because you mentioned it last week. You said no matter how good you are or how bad you are, the biggest thing is, if you've never stepped into the ring, amateur or pro, most people bottle it moments before. Obviously, I was with him in the changing rooms, cool, calm all the way through, and then obviously he did the ring walk. So just tell me what you saw in him as a person, and how he dealt with just the ring walk and the occasion overall, walking out in front of 30-odd thousand.
Yeah, he dealt with it remarkably well. He'd have had a lot of instruction from Naz. He had to probably distract himself, but Naz fed off the audience, to be honest. But I think what we have got to mention is that the facts are that the opponent was absolutely useless. And if you'd watched videos of him before, you'd seen he was useless. So it kind of gives you that confidence going into a fight, knowing that nothing's really going to come back. And if there were going to be any mistakes made, it would probably be on Aadam's behalf. So you have that kind of confidence, and I don't think the kid actually made any contact apart from when they first touched the gloves at the beginning of the round. But it's still a lot to overcome. But what I would have said to Aadam in that fight is, and you'd have to be honest with fighters, and you have to look for what it is. This kid's useless. Run out, hit him as hard and as fast as you can, and take him out before anybody can see what his level is. And because if you don't, what happens is what happened on the night. Aadam did his moves, did his little leg kicks, looked good, got all the shoulder rolls, everything else, got him into position to finish him off. And before he could finish him off, the towel got thrown in. It was a massive anticlimax. So he could have taken him out, but you've got to have that judgment of when's the right time. And I think he just left it a little bit too long.
Is that just in-ring experience, you think?
Considering the level of the opposition, somebody's got to be weighing it up. If it's either the fighter who's weighing it up or the coach. Do you understand? So, if you're a good fighter, you'll think, right, this kid's got, like Naz used to predict 2 and 3 rounds. He used to look, I can remember he'd be sat watching videos in my dad's house, what Frank had sent up. Frank had sent videos up of opponents. And my dad and Naz would sit down and watch them. They watch 3 or 4 opponents, and then they'd pick who they were going to fight. And Naz would say, I'm going to beat him in 3, I'll beat him in 3 rounds. So Naz knew, so they'd go out and beat him in 3 rounds because he watched it.
I just clarify, that's normal practice, because I can imagine people sat there thinking conspiracies. That is very normal.
No, it's normal. Of course, it's normal practice, because when you have involuntary defences, you can pick who you want, but it's got to be somebody reasonably good. So they sit down and weigh it all up. And then if the fighter's not going to do it, the coach can say, look, this kid's useless. Get in there, jump on him straight away. You might take 1 or 2 shots, but finish him before anybody can work him out. And I think the next time Aadam fights, he's got to fight somebody a lot better than that, because Aadam can actually fight. And so it's a bit of an injustice in a way, because he wasn't allowed to show what he's capable of, and he is capable because I've had him in this gym sparring people, so I know, and I've seen him getting hit, and I've seen him, you know, regain his composure and do what he's got to do. So he can afford, and he's improved since then, so he can afford to have a better level of opponent, and he's going to get a lot of flack probably for that fight, but let's just be glad he's managed to step through the ropes and, you know, take the plunge, and we can only see from this point onwards.
Definitely so, and I'm pretty sure, I think the big learning factor for him will probably be the, like you just said there, next time don't give him the opportunity, and he's now had that in-ring experience, walking out, etc. I don't know how he goes from like a small arena from that.
Well, you can't look. Once you're in that ring, it doesn't really matter what you can from the 3 rows out. That's all you kind of see. It's a big noise, and if you focus, it's like you don't really worry too much about what's going off in the crowd. You really zoomed in on the opponent in front of you. You don't tend to. I always, you know, talk to fighters, and they say when I'm fighting, all I hear is your voice or your dad's voice or your brother's voice. I don't really listen to anybody else. So, you know, just because you're being on that big arena, you can still box in a smaller arena. Of course you can. It's irrelevant once you're in that ring.
Last question on that fight. The referee, obviously, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out the guy could have carried on. We've seen it before, like when, I think, was it Willie Lemon? I'm trying to think who it was now, where it was a brutal fight. The referee, Steve Gray, I think it was, he threw the towel back out. Why didn't he referee just grab that towel, chuck it back out and said, hang on a minute, you're not going to rob this guy of a proper finish here, because the kid was fine.
Well, the referee's got to look after the opponent, but the opponent never got hurt with anything. But what a good referee would have done, he'd have picked up the towel, stopped the fight, thrown the towel out, and said to the fighter, you need to fight. You're not even being hit with a shot. Do you understand? So a good referee would have thrown the towel back out. The kid was bending down in the corner, stopped the fight, sent Aadam to the other corner, gone to the fighter. You're here to fight. You're getting paid to fight. You're not getting paid to jump on the floor. Yeah, off you go. That's what a good referee would have done.